Well, to China now, and the Chinese government is facing new allegations of a coronavirus cover-up. Around 300 pages of online data linked to the laboratory suspected of being the source of COVID-19 have been deleted, alongside studies carried out by a Wuhan-based virologist dubbed Batwoman. Well, to discuss this and more, I'm joined by Army Major General and Senator Jim Molan in Queanbeyan in New South Wales. Jim, I got to kick this off with a random question for you. You're a backbencher. I agree with Campbell Newman. There's never been a better time to be a backbencher in government. You know, were we a bit hard?
Oh, Corey, good evening to you. And Queanbeyan also means the centre of the universe in accordance with some tribe somewhere, I'm quite sure. But mate, I was very interested in what Campbell Newman said, and he's got a point. I think he's got a very important point. I've certainly found that the lack of travel is quite something. It really is a bonus to our job. We're trying to replace it by Skype and by Zoom and by other things like that. But we made a decision in March of this year, my wife and I, that we would donate 30% of my salary to charities for the simple reason that I believe that if we're going to be all in this together, then we've got to be all in this together. And we'll keep doing that until we think that COVID has got a fair chance of coming out. People on the south coast of New South Wales, yet again, because of the silliness of the application of the rules in the Victoria-New South Wales border, have been smashed again. The least that I can do as a backbencher is make some financial sacrifice.
Look, Jim, I didn't know that. You're a very good man. You know that. I've always thought that about you, and you're leading by example once again. Can we go, though, to what's going on in China, right? The National Natural Science Foundation of China, all the records, all the studies have been wiped. I mean, how can we rely on anything the Chinese say or do or in relation to coronavirus or actually anything?
Well, who knows whether it's true, but the probability, Corey, is that it is true. But why would we be surprised? Going back to what's created the trade problem, or what people popularly say created the trade problem, was a call by Marise Payne, who today came out with a great statement with some of our allies in relation to Hong Kong, a statement by Marise Payne that we should conduct such an inquiry. Well, of course, we are disliked by the Chinese, not necessarily because of what we do, but because of what we are. But it's popularly said one of their 14 reasons was that we demanded an investigation. The Chinese initially said no. Then we were backed by, I think it was something like 100 nations. The Chinese then came on, but they've controlled the timing of it. Why would we be surprised that they have rigged the whole thing? Even if this goes together, we even had, much to my astonishment, Corey, we saw the World Health Organization's boss come out and give a little tiny complaint about the Chinese holding it up. But we shouldn't be surprised, mate.
A tiny complaint because they weren't allowed in to actually do the job that they've been asked and tasked to do. A job
that's right.
To find out why the whole global economy has been shut down. China are out of control, Jim, and I have to tell you, I'm a little concerned. There are experts in this space. You are one of them. Catherine McGregor is another who have discussed the role of Taiwan and what it means. Now, in the dying days of the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo has ended restrictions on official recognition with Taiwan and contacts. I presume this is going to anger the communist regime in China. If you put your experienced hat on, how do you think this plays out over the longer term?
Well, it was interesting to see that. We haven't seen a Chinese reply yet, but I'm sure that they will reply appropriately. The Secretary of State Pompeo used the word appeasement in referring to the restrictions that had been placed by the 1979 Act on US-Taiwan relations. And some of them were patently silly, and they were being done for the simple reason of appeasing, as he said, China. Well, this is a bit of a nastiness. This is a bit of politics, but it is, in all probability, it is the right thing to do. We came out today, as I said before, and made a very good statement. 4 nations out of our 5-nation, 5 Eyes statement, 4 nations of those nations came out and criticised China. If we don't come out and say these things about Hong Kong or about Taiwan, then China will be under the impression that they can pick us off one at a time. And the real relevance of Taiwan, a 25 million Chinese heritage-based successful nation, which stands in contradistinction to the 1.4 billion Chinese under the Chinese Communist Party, the real value of Taiwan to the Western world is that it is an example of what China could become if it was law-abiding and rules-observing. That's why China doesn't like it. I don't know whether they'll have a hack at them over it.
Yeah, I've got to go to a break, but I've got two quick questions for you. Who was one of the five? Which one of the Five Eyes partners didn't sign the support of Hong Kong? And two, should Australia recognise Taiwan diplomatically?
No. Second question first. No, I don't think we do. There's no point poking a tiger in the eye unless you've actually got a chair close at hand. Firstly. Secondly, the one country of the magnificent organisation we belong to called Five Eyes, ABCANZ, was New Zealand. A bit sad. New Zealand has a greater dependence on China than even we do. So it can afford to appease, I believe.
I know they're loving the export of all the New Zealand rock lobsters to China as they've shut down the Australian industry.
Bet they are.
Jim Molan, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on.